how are you? It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, thanks so much for hopping on. I'm digging the artwork you got there in the background.
Oh,
Looks really,
thank you.
yeah.
Yes, the massive, ever growing collection of horror things.
Hey, I've got
Well, yeah.
same thing in my apartment. So, but
Well, congratulations on It's a Wonderful Knife,
oh,
Christmas
thank you so
horror,
much. Yeah,
Christmas
yeah.
slasher. Very exciting. How are you feeling about having it almost out in the world?
Yeah, I'm feeling great about it. I'm, it's always a bit of a blur. Like, we had to kind of, push like because the strike was very much looming when we were going into this, and so, I'm glad that we were able to kind of, get under the wire for everything and do everything, above board. But yeah, now that it's starting to, see, audiences are starting to see it and connect with it. That's really, the most rewarding part.
Hell yeah. And so, how did you get involved with this with Michael Kennedy? The both of you obviously know how to write a good slasher, a good kind of weird inversion of the slasher. And so the two of you coming together just makes a lot of sense. So, how did that happen?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, very much kind of what as you're sort of implying. I had Tragic Girls come out, and then a couple years later, Freaky came out, and I started getting messages being like, "You checked out Freaky? Like, you should meet this, Michael Kenny guy, kind of thing." And so we kind of met and kind of dug each other, and then I've known the Divide and Conquer producing team and Seth Kaplan for a while, and so when they had It's a Wonderful Knife kind of rolled around, they kind of I was on their list of people to bring in for it, and I just fell in love with it. I always look for things to direct that I'm not writing, that are unlike things that I would write. And so like I tend to have a bit more of a cynical kind of heart to some of the stuff that I write. And what I loved about this was just that it really means it, like it really has a very kind of uplifting kind of outlook that is reminiscent of the movies that inspired it. And then I really love that, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to have a slasher movie that has that much of a feel good core to it.
It does, it feels like a very Christmas slasher in a feel good way. It's like Hallmark movie slasher. And I mean that positively. It's got that kind of like sugar coated vibe to it, but then it's got a bunch of blood too, which is a very cool kind of combination.
Totally. And I used to I worked on a couple of Hallmark Christmas movies when I used to be an
Oh,
editor.
really?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm very familiar with that world, and I have a lot of respect for those type of films, and
Oh, oh yeah.
there's a lot of work that goes into them. They have a very dedicated audience. And but at the same time, as you're sitting there kind of watching some of these due diligence, I'm like, I bet this guy would just go crazy and murder a bunch of people. And so I wanted to kind of, like that was kind of where I was going with like Justin Long's character was like, he's essentially like a Hallmark villain gone nuts, and I think that's pretty fun. Like the guy who's gonna like buy up the town just decides to start murdering people because his real estate scheme is spurned. That's hilarious to me.
I love that. And okay, I'm glad you brought up Justin Long because I feel like we're having a Justin Long renaissance. It's very exciting. And
The
so
longest song,
he
sure,
is
yeah.
it's the longest songs. But I love him in this movie, and his teeth alone are just absolutely incredible. And I wanted to hear more about working with Justin and getting and what it was like shaping his character, and if he kind of just took it and ran with it.
Yeah, he definitely he's a guy who comes in with a lot of ideas, which is awesome. Like
Oh, cool.
you don't
Okay.
want to have a like people who really engage is like my favorite because I can always help kind of steer and help shape, but you can't make somebody care. And Justin cares so much about like and just came in with a billion ideas. And
Yeah.
and even like in our first meeting, he's like I would like to work on the look, and I was like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I was thinking about like some, kind of those cold, like icy eyes. And I was like, oh, some like contacts kind of thing. He's like, yeah, and maybe some like, sort of like sandier blonde hair. And I was like, okay, like a wig kind of thing. He's like, yeah, but like well coiffed, and I was like, all right, all right. And then he was like, and veneers. I was thinking veneers.
Oh
And
my god, he
I was like,
was
okay. And I'm like Walton Goggins. He's like, yes, like that, like kind of like that. And then I was like, all right. And then he's like some spray tan, and I was like, okay, and then the studio starts to get like a bit like, are we talking about the teeth? Like what, and I was like, I don't think we want to. Like we want the full on, we want the one that the performance that he's most excited to give. And the movie can hold it. Like it has this magical kind of setup to it.
does.
You can do a big buy-in like that. And I think Justin, like pushed it to a pretty crazy place, but at the same time, it's not out of the realm of reality for the type of movie we're making. And he was just very, very cognizant of that, and as a result, I think he was able to make some really big choices that are super fun, but don't like break the movie.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. I like that you say magical. Like there is whimsy to this movie. Again, it's a
Sure.
slasher, but there is whimsy to it. And I love seeing that mix of whimsy and slasher. Because again, I think people think of slashers as very dour. And yeah, people are getting killed and it's gross, but the whimsy is really cool to see in a film like this and playing with that kind of fantastical element a little bit more.
Yeah, and you know, like slashers are not like, I think slashers turn people off if they're not horror fans. I think because they're like, I just don't want to see a bunch of people get killed, and you're like it kind of negates the magic and the drama of it. Like you know, you're
Yeah.
watching Friday the 13th partially for the magic trick of it. Like you know, you
Yeah.
want that Tom Savini type of like, you know, thing where it's like this guy looks dead, like that looks brutal. I get
Yeah.
to experience that vicariously, and it's not real, and I know on a fundamental real reason, or you know, fundamental level that it's not, and you get to have that fun, and you know, that's part of the reason I love horror, is because it allows you to do those sorts of things.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask about Jess McLeod, who plays Bernie, who ended up being my favorite character of this whole movie. I loved her so much. And I love how, again, this is, I think, I'm curious about how much from directing and then kind of Michael Kennedy's script of like having that bully narrative take a different queer route. And I love that. It's girls and all that. And I love that kind of evolution of her character and how Jess brings her to life. So I just wanted to ask more about Bernie and Jess and bringing that whole story to the
Yeah, Bernie
screen.
was a very specific character that we were really really quite worried about, because like on the page we all really loved her and thought that but it was needed to be a certain type of eccentric, and
Yeah.
we cast a very wide net trying to find, you know, as you know, it reads from people all over the place, and in the end I really only found a couple people who were even like people that we thought maybe could do it, and but Jess was kind of the standout, and like also just happened to be in Vancouver, which was kind of awesome too.
Oh,
You know, which is like, you know, like usually when you're like looking for like uh, you know, like but it was weird because like I didn't even really know when I sort of like fell in love with their tape, and um but you know, once we started kind of getting them in with Jane and seeing the chemistry between them, it really took on a different sort of flavor. Like in the script, like it's a very kind of deep friendship, but it's not, it only kind of hints at the romance. Like it doesn't really come to fruition in the way that it was
yeah.
coming. You know, with them, like once we did the rehearsal, they just had that chemistry, and we kind of all like, I think Jess was probably the first one to say it, but it was kind of like, I feel like people are going to kind of ship them a little bit, you know, lately, and you know, was really kind of like, what do you think of the idea we start seeding things more in, and so Michael and I and Jane and Jess kind of all like talked about it, and decided to kind of make it more of a romantic kind of angle, but it really very much came from Jess and Jane and like the type of chemistry they had, and it was really more of a factor of kind of like listening to our collaboration, like what was happening in it, and it you know, and you know, obviously Michael's a queer man himself and kind of has those sort of subtexts in a lot of the films he writes, and you know, but it was really responding to the characters that were being created.
That's so cool. I love to hear that. That's like, and I loved their relationship. So that's really cool to hear that that came out of collaborating. And I love filmmaking when those kinds of things can come out of like collaborating with your actors. It's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. And Jess and Jane are both very smart performers. Like and like really took ownership over this in a way that you know, I don't think is common for people their age, you know, like, and so like, you know, it like very um sorry, I'm getting a little emotional, but like very you know, like really want it to be good and really want it to be authentic and really want to bring you know you know, themselves to it in a way that you don't always see, and even though the movie is,
Yeah.
you know, like it's a flasher movie or whatever, but it, like, you know, they did buy into it in a way that I was really hoping that they would, and kind of glad that they felt comfortable in doing, you know.
That's amazing. My last question is just I love there's a scene. I don't want to give too much spoilers, but the killer is on the ground and we're creeping over their body. And I love a very good scream. It felt very Scream too, like a Scream too. That's like the terrifying scene where they're crawling over the body. And I love the way you kind of interpret that into the like into this and into this film. And I was curious if that was purposeful or is it kind of like after the fact you're like, oh shit. It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
got that.
Michael's a very big Scream 2 fan, and
Yes, I was
like
curious if that.
And we took a lot of inspiration from like from that movie, particularly like that score. Like I think it's a great ensemble. I think it's one of the best like horror movie sequels ever made.
Yes,
And so
I
yeah,
agree
that
with
was a
that.
relatively direct reference. And so we I I want it to be a little bit different because it's also a little bit, it's not, it's a little absurd, but it's not like I don't think I could ever get within striking distance of a Wes Craven movie. I mean, he's just so good, but it was fun to do our little riff on that. And what's
And
fun about
Catherine
that,
Isabel's in the scene, which is also so
I
cool. I
know,
mean, my queen of my heart and soul is in this
and she
movie and
yeah
in that scene.
she,
So
she's so great. And yeah, it was just so fun and so game. And what's actually really funny about, like, because that in that scene, no spoilers, but like, I mean, they're creeping over like Joel McHale, and he like, I was thinking like, oh hey, maybe we call Joel a little late for that, we can shoot all this coverage without him, kind of thing. And then he was just like, no man, I'll be here. Like he was like on the ground, like in costume, like people step up for hours, like like all these other setups, everyone's coverage, like
yeah,
just to be there for the for Jane, for the reaction, for like and I was like, he didn't have to, it could have been a sandbag, what I mean, like but like it makes a difference. And he was just like, so keen to like just set a good example for the younger cast. And like and that was really I didn't expect that, and then I thought it was pretty amazing.
Jesus, what a cool, like, you're, this just sounds like a incredible like cast of people that you worked with for this
Yeah,
movie.
we
Like
got
that
very
just
very
sounds
very
so
lucky.
cool.
And yeah, they're all become very dear friends, which is awesome.
It's amazing. My last question: what is your favorite holiday horror movie, though? I do have
Oh,
to know.
it's probably Scrooged. Like I grew up with him.
Scrooge, good
Yeah.
one. All right, all right, all right. I like
I
it. I
don't know how
like
deep
it.
a cut that is these days, but I love that movie. So.
I haven't seen that in a while, so that reminds me to watch Scrooge. I forget that that is actually a horror movie. You can get that as a horror
Yeah,
movie.
it's definitely a horror movie. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
but I mean, A Christmas Carol is kind of a horror movie. Like
Oh, A Christmas Carol. It's a ghost story. It's this ghost hanging out, telling
sure.
him how bad he is. I mean, it really is a Victorian ghost story at the core of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for chatting with me today about It's a Wonderful Knife. Congratulations. This is such a fun, weird holiday horror movie, and I'm excited for everyone to see it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much, Meredith. I appreciate you
Absolutely.
taking the time.